Greetings, everybody. We have gathered around the table again today for another episode. Once again, going to hammer in the fact that Nick Shabazz's little contest is still going, so vote for us and check out all the other applicants and contestants and whatnot.
I do believe when this airs, it will have just ended. It's been changed to June 2nd now, I believe.
Okay.
So thanks for everyone for voting.
Yeah. We all appreciate it. Everyone in the community.
Send out little I voted stickers.
Shabazz needs to do that for sure.
That would be funny.
That's it.
I need to follow up on something last week before we get started here. We had talked about the weight of the knife last week and how it was a wolf, world record wolf. And we went into ounces and how heavy the wolf was. Well, drunk Dennis doesn't care and forgets to look it up. But sober Dennis, after he hears it a second time when the video's been aired, needs to know that stuff because I go OCD on that the whole thing. So first of all, your math on last week's episode, what was the knife?
Um,
I want to Outlast.
Yes.
The Outlast, yes. Equal to the world record wolf. You said 164 pounds, give or take, for what was the math for the world's heaviest wolf?
I said it was 2,606.74 ounces.
That is correct, sir. So, yeah, little more than 165, maybe 170 pounds is what that works out to.
Okay.
According to my math. That is incorrect. Your sources are incorrect, sir.
Okay.
The actual world record of a wolf is 230 pounds, which works out to 3,680 ounces.
Fair enough.
Which is a scary statement just by itself.
It's a 230-pound wolf. It was actually done right here in Alberta 3 years ago.
Cool.
And before that, it was 175 pounds.
So, the important thing about this
Yes.
is, did you redo the math and figure out how many knives that equals out to?
No! I did not care.
I feel like this needed to start or end with a Z snap.
But I looked into it, and we need to question your sources sometimes on the weights of things. Because that was a good 50 pounds off of what the actual statistic was.
That's fair. That's fair.
I wonder if that was a world record from some years past, or
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Oh, snap. And you know what? I totally did do the math on how many Outlasts it was, because I did go OCD like that on my calculator, and I forgot it until right now.
Excellent.
Rather than, you had said for close to 440 of them, I believe was your statistic.
Yep.
They were 617 and a half, so 600, close to 618
Jeez.
Cool.
Outlasts it takes to get the actual world record. Yeah.
Fair
Sober
enough.
Dennis does math.
Now we
Be
know.
warned.
Knowing is half the battle.
Having said that, let's get on some pocket dumps here.
Sure.
Nigel, do it up,
Alrighty.
my man.
This week, carrying my Crooked River with the Banksia pod scales.
It's pretty.
Yep.
It's pretty.
It
Always
is
a nice
cool.
one, yeah.
Yeah, it's a standard in my pocket, mostly just because of the grip size.
Yeah, understandable. I can't wait to get some of that Banksia pod for myself.
Mm-hmm. It is pretty.
Yeah.
Let's go, Joe.
Oh, hey, we're going across the table this week. Holy
Yeah,
crap.
why not?
Yeah, little ZT today. Haven't carried him in a while, so I kind of wanted to give that a go again.
It seems weird you carrying something so small.
It really does.
You know, I've never thought of like the Benchmade 940 as a small knife, and I've always thought of this as a small knife. And then I put them. I know, I put them side by side. I'm like, what the hell?
I'm just glad he didn't
First
break
day.
out the leather neck on his
Well,
He's compensating for the small knife this week.
absolutely. You say that as if my leather neck doesn't go with me every week.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. And then this week I got the old Benchmade fact because it's a fantastic little fact.
It is
That
your
it
weather,
is.
your weathered fact.
Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah, that just
Simmer
happened.
down.
No, I don't want to.
Last but not least, it's an oldie but a goodie. People love it. People hate it. It's the Spyderco Tough.
It's an odd one.
It's an absolute monster.
Yeah.
It's definitely a Spyderco.
And I have a classification of knives, and there's no size, there's no shape, there's no weight to this classification of knives. I call them giggle knives. And when you're playing around with them and you're holding them, you giggle. And for me, this knife is definitely a giggle knife, for sure.
I can just
So-
see the first time you pick up this knife and just the quick Peter Griffin.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So this week, we are having a look at a new offering from Benchmade, it is the 537 Bailout. Dun, 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 dun. Another step in the iterations of the Pardue bug out sort of lineup.
Yep.
They extended the handles on these guys just a little bit, which makes it super, super comfy for my big hands. And these guys are using a 3V blade with a Tanto tip.
Is the bug out a Pardue design?
Well, I consider them the same sort of family.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Based
Yeah,
off
yeah.
of.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. The new version of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. More militarized, more heavy duty, more
Mm-hmm.
robust to a degree, for sure.
There is some things that they definitely were listening to people about. Just in the regard to like, you see a lot of people that will re-dye their blue bug out
Mm-hmm.
black, things like that. Just
Yeah.
give me a black version,
Yeah.
which you're not going to probably hear from me, but
I can understand why people.
yeah, it's a more neutral color that is going to reach a wider audience for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah. With some definite improvements on the original bug out, some reinforced on the backside with the lanyard, whether it's a striker, whether it's a scraper, whether it's whatever, the aluminum backspacer is a nice little addition for people who wanted it. It also stretches out the handle, so for extra large hands and stuff like that, they will probably notice that they're liking the grip a little bit more on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason why they did that is because it was the military application sort of idea for this guy. So considering gloved hands
Makes sense.
is why I think they extended the handle.
They also, I mean, with that little bit of a scraper slash lanyard hole and everything else, you put a little bit of metal at the back of the knife, so it kind of balances the knife better in your hand too, right? It's not so blade heavy with the plastic handle there.
Yeah, and for the basic materials, 3V with a Cerakote on the blade,
Yeah.
the aluminum is backspacer, and then the Grivery Velox. I don't know, one of Benchmade's plastics. I think they're calling Grivery this
It's
time around.
fiber reinforced nylon eventually at the end of the day, right?
It's a very similar compound that we've seen before.
Yeah.
Heavily skeletonized, just like the bug out. Yeah,
Reasonably
Honeycombed.
tough for the density.
For some strength and stuff like that, but
And there was some titanium involved on this knife.
I want to say, well, the bug out had titanium. Yeah,
mainly.
It's the lock bar that's titanium.
the access lock was titanium, I believe, and I don't know if it is on the bailout in this situation, but. And then all standoffs again black, going with the theme of this knife in the first
Yeah,
place.
black and gray.
Mhm.
Really subdued colors.
Watched one review where the guy was wondering if it was the same coating as the Ranger bug out. It is not. The
No.
Ranger bug out is a chromium nitride coating. This is Cerakoting. It is a different makeup.
If I'm not mistaken, they're a slightly different color and stuff.
They
too,
certainly
right?
are.
Yes, the shades are definitely different. This
Yeah.
is a little bit more light.
Yeah.
So at a overall length of 8.07 inches, it would take just under 4 of these to equal the length of the world record's longest rabbit ears.
That sounds super adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're like Norwegian flop or something. It's probably called
yeah.
that breed.
Just waving like a cape behind it, like Superman, just in the wind.
Just in the wind, caught around its legs constantly.
Well, once it gets speed, it'll be like that, but the trick is getting the speed and not tripping itself up and somersaulting all the time
So
and
like
stuff.
graceful 30 seconds until it loses its balance and just
Yeah.
goes.
They just top knot them on the top of their head, get the ears right out of the way.
A little bit of a rabbit man bun going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate
Its
that.
name is Chad.
I hope they caught that rabbit and I hope they ate it afterwards.
Very much so. So at a weight of 2.05 ounces, it would take about 195 of these to equal the weight of a giraffe heart.
That sounds delicious.
It would be delicious.
Q-PETA.
And once again, PETA comes into the conversation of you're not allowed to eat giraffes. That's just
Every
a rule.
week it happens. We need one.
It's unless you live in Africa. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a fair argument, I guess.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
kind of want, like, how big is a giraffe heart?
25 pounds.
That's like a turkey-sized heart, man.
We can do it. We can do it, the four of us. We'll post it on Nigel's Instagram story. It'll be fine. There'll still be like three-quarters of it left.
You could still like get the stuffing made up and stuff the ventricles and
stuff.
I mean, I like the sounds of that, but first I just want to try, based in its own juices kind of thing.
That is the worst before and after picture
That's
ever.
What she said.
Yes.
Oh my.
So yeah, with the new bailout in mind, definitely a little more hard use, a little more tactical oriented, especially with the cross guards, especially with the Tanto blade itself and the applications towards something that might not be a day-to-day chore type of thing. I think the grip really kind of accentuates that kind of application on it. And again, I have seen tip tests on these where they're stabbing into aluminum sheets and very, very minimal damage to the bug. Very, very slight, like hardly noticeable on camera type of thing.
Bailout.
Yeah. Not my God. But yeah, regardless, as far as the piercing factor, and with this cross guard, I definitely think about that a little bit with this knife.
I want to see them do a cold steel test and stab it through a carbon or something like that. Just out of curiosity, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be entertaining.
Yeah.
3V's a decent enough choice for a blade steel this thin. It's going to be really tough, and as it is this thinned out, relatively slicey. It feels really thin behind the edge. I imagine like general chores should be pretty easy with a knife like this.
It's thin to begin with, and it's a full flat, right? So it's going to be pretty slicey.
Yeah, close enough to a full flat.
Yeah, and if you decided to put a full polish on this knife as well and go full polish with the bevel itself, 3V does like to shine in many ways.
There's something like a distinctive 80s kind of vibe I'm getting from that with a near polished blade on that handle.
And then the Cerakoting is almost got a little bit of a sparkle to it. You throw some disco ball action in there. Yeah, we got a dance party.
Just need to kick in the lasers.
It's a bailout dance party.
Have you ever seen like the fake granite look that people used to do back a couple years ago? That almost has that kind of stippling to it.
Yeah. And it is slightly different from like even the Contigo finish. As well. Like it's not quite the same as
Contigo's a little bit more smooth, isn't it? Like the texture's
and even a lighter gray color to it type of idea when you look at it compared to the bailout's finish and matching the aluminum finish as well. So they probably did do the coating on this.
Yeah, I actually wasn't aware that it was aluminum back there until actually tonight.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And the one thing I noticed is on the interior of it, the backspacer doesn't actually go big enough into where the pocket or clip goes, but they do have a separate steel insert that they have put into all three of those holes, almost like a cloverleaf style pattern. So it's not just the plastic that you're screwing into. There is still steel reinforcement on the backside of that clip.
It's not an 80-10.
And no, it is not an 80-10. We haven't
We'll talk about that later.
We haven't even reviewed that knife and we're slagging on it, but yeah. Anyway. So it's nice to see the Benchmade and left to right. Again, not a Rook review, and I'm going to continue to flag on that until they change. So that keeps...
It only makes sense with an access lock to make it ambidextrous like that.
Yeah.
And this isn't unique to the bailout. I found this to be the same with the bug out, but because it's so thin, like just disappears in the pocket. Good
super
clearance.
Lightweight, very unobtrusive to carry.
Yeah.
Other than the that like lanyard hole there, it actually is deep carry all the way in.
It's pretty minimal. Right? This is not a bad way to attach a lanyard if you're going to do deep carry, just because then it does rest above your pocket and not get bundled up and stuff.
Yeah. And I heard one guy comment as well that even in the pocket, because it's kind of like not a usual shape that you'd see on the back of a knife, it looks very utilitarian tool-like when you only see the top of that.
Or something.
Yeah, you're not sure what that is. It very easily could pass it up as something other than a knife type idea, right? So
Sure.
I think they did a good job on that.
Yeah. Before we get to the elephant in the room, let's think of something else to say. There's something you don't like.
The big one is the way that this crossguard, the bolster sits. I know they did it for a tactical standpoint on doing this flare on the backside, but really I do a lot of putting my thumb back there, the little thumb up the spine type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, I don't like it when knives sit at an angle and you end up pointing with the knife a whole bunch, and
Stabbing me across
Well, and
the
I
table.
think one of the reasons is
Just in the
because
nose.
of where that puts your thumb.
that's
Is
where I was trying to get to.
Yeah,
Yes, is that's exactly what that ramp does. So yeah, I'm on the same boat as Dennis. Is I don't really like having that ramp there.
I think they could have just kept it true.
Like the bug out.
And yeah, I don't know how much more machining. I don't know what the addition to the stop pin being placed slightly different than the bug out, because it does look like it's in a different spot.
It
Is it
has
maybe
to be offset
larger?
a bit.
Not sure. That's
Yeah.
something that no one's really dabbled on, is the stop pin adjustment and how that works on the mechanism of the knife. But yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
one thing I'm not a huge fan of, for sure.
Yeah, we were talking too about just the kind of scraper-esque-ness of
Yeah.
that lanyard hole. And
A couple missed opportunities there, we think.
yeah,
Mhm.
namely, it's aluminum, and I think it would have been better served if you made it out of 3V, because then with that impact resistance,
Well, or
you
some
could
sort
strike with it, you could scrape with it.
any sort of hardened steel.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Of course.
to take the impact, for sure. It would have been cool for 3V.
Just because.
Just making it from the offcuts of the same stock would have been cool.
That's it.
And then the other thing I personally mentioned as well is a taper
Yeah.
on it to be a little more scraper oriented rather
And
than
hey,
just
pry
being,
bar.
And if
Yeah.
you needed a 3V pry bar, that's a safer way to implement one for sure.
Oh, hell yeah, it is.
Yeah, because they did leave this guy quite squared off, so it does work as a bit of a scraper, but it's not going to get underneath anything and help lift something off.
Yeah.
It's a
It's-
really obtuse angle. It's really thick. So
You're not prying much with that unless there's already a gap. You're not really prying anything with something like that.
No.
And if you had it left, the tactical aspects as far as the tanto for piercing and stabbing and things like that, it would have been a lot more, because then you straight up had a pry bar on the
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
side,
Mhm.
and you didn't have to question the prying strength on the rest of this
An
knife.
FRN handle.
Yeah, exactly, which is the one complaint that everyone's had on this bug out series is cheap plastic handles, right?
Yeah.
So
Durable as it may be for most applications, you're billing this as a hard use military knife. No.
Yeah.
And they almost need to do a like carbon fiber version of the bug out that's not a gold class.
Mhm.
No.
well, I've been saying for a while now.
Even just a micarta handled version.
that's fair.
A
My card at
mid-range,
G10, yes.
Yeah.
a mid-range bug out. I said they went from 0 to 100, and they needed to come up with a 50 bug out in the
Mhm.
first place, and I hope they do.
Yeah.
Still come out with a 50 bug out. I don't think the bailout is the 50 bug out that
No.
we were looking for.
There's things about this that I want to like,
Mhm.
and then they kind of fumbled them.
Yeah.
Well, a good way to summarize this, at least from my perspective, this reminds me of a Gerber. It reminds me of a SOG. Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
It wouldn't
But-
have been 3V that they made the mistakes on, but
No.
the mistakes would have still been made.
Well, I think that kind of leads into
Mistakes being made on 3V.
Yeah.
The elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Oh, it's what
So-
everyone is so hyped about right now with this knife in all the wrong
Jeez.
ways.
And there's
Yeah.
tons of discussions online about it. Lots of guys doing independent testing.
Mhm.
So for those of you unaware, this 3V steel has been advertised to be hardened in the range of 55 to 58 Rockwell.
Okay, stop right there. 55 to 58 for 3V. Titch on the soft side.
Yeah.
55?
So for reference, when Crucible's talking about the manufacturer for the
points.
steel, they're giving you an active range of 58 to 62, being the ideal range for most applications. That
Mhm.
this is dead soft.
Yeah.
Worse yet,
I do believe both. Most of my Bark Rivers are a 60-61
Mhm.
realm.
point taken, and we
Yeah.
all know how tough those knives are.
Yeah.
And yet, there's people doing independent Rockwell testing, and given there will be outliers, 54,
53?
53.8s, I think.
Yeah.
50, something
which
like that.
is
Yeah.
ridiculously soft for a steel like this.
Way out of the large variants that they've given.
My
Yes.
favorite.
Many of them have been a 55 and a 56, which is in the advertised
Yeah.
Benchmade realm.
But
we've
way on the low end.
still on the low end compared
Yeah.
to the 58 that they do claim is out there somewhere.
Crucible doesn't even have like information on tempering to that hardness.
No, the
Like
low
they don't
side
even bother with
softness.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, Play-Doh versus anyway. It's
Yeah.
But I mean, there hasn't yet been a sample tested that has read anything higher than a 56.
56, I believe, is the highest. I
So-
don't think I've read
No.
a 57 or a 58.
That's
That's
still,
disappointing.
even if
the
it,
elusive
even-
58.
Jesus, the collector's value skyrockets. The only time that damaging a knife will increase the value. No.
They're
But even,
secretly numbered.
and this is kind of the consensus among other knife makers and critics alike, and I think us included. That is not anywhere near an optimal range. Even if it was between 55, 58, I understand that the marketing scheme behind this
Yep.
is, 3B
Well-
is super tough at that softness, and it is.
I'm going to jump in on that and point out the fact that part of the marketing scheme is that they are trying to tout that it is tough, and that's why they did it a little bit softer. But it's 3V.
Apparently,
Yeah.
there was an emailed response saying that the ease of sharpening was one of the major reasons. Apparently, there has been an email response to one of the guys
Fair
out
enough.
there as far as a Benchmade response. And they said the ease of sharpening is why one of the big reasons they went so soft.
But let's say you're in a
So
military.
how soft do they run their M4 then?
60 to 62.
'Cause screw them for that then.
That's what they claim. I might have someone ping my Contigo just to make sure. But
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing I will say, dabbling on the Contigo, is use your knife and tell me it's not rocking.
Yeah,
And that's
but
a good application. Is
But
use it.
my kind of point there is, if they're running M4 at such a hard Rockwell, M4 is, I find, a bit of a pain in the ass to sharpen,
Oh, it is a
even compared
pain.
to 3V done at a proper
Yeah,
Rockwell.
it's a big brother steel, but they're in the same family as a
Yes.
3V, and especially when you get
But think about who they're marketing this to and who's likely to use what to sharpen the knife. Diamond plates are probably going to be the thing that people choose because they're cheap, replaceable, easy to use,
and Benchmade
fast.
sells one.
Mhm.
You know.
And Benchmade sells one. So you're telling me that you couldn't put this at a 58 minimum?
Yeah.
Like, holy crap, guys.
If they had done a 58 to 60 Rockwell, I would probably actually own
And
that
then
knife.
even if they dabbled into the 57s and stuff, you're like, nah,
it's
Yeah.
close.
it's still going to beat it up. Yeah.
Yeah. But at this point,
The other thing I will throw out there, other than the heat treatment and the controversy on the heat treatments of Benchmade and what's going on right now, I have to throw out 3V for knife guys in this particular knife realm is a completely unacceptable choice for this knife.
oh, yeah.
I don't think you should use 3V in this knife, and you're hopping on that bandwagon that you were talking about earlier on how 3V is the new wonder steel on the market, and they're just going to push and push and push. But when you look at the design of this knife,
It doesn't call
These
for a
things
steel
don't
like
go
that,
together.
Yeah.
no.
The steel's tougher than the handle will ever be at this point.
Yeah,
Even at
it's-
62, it would be tougher than the handle would be.
Jumping on the hype train.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like trying to put a F1 motor into a go-kart.
Right?
It just not quite enough there to reinforce and hold what you're trying to do with it.
Like, it feels like the only thought that went into this was, hey, the bug out's selling great. 3V's doing really well. Put them together.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's...
Throw a Tanto on there.
And
Let's
like,
sell to the military.
the best part is if they had to come out with this knife at say like $100 price point or $120 price point and throw D2.
Yeah.
They've got the
Yeah.
SMCPs in D2 now.
That
They've
would
got
be
the
nice.
whole
Yeah.
bunch of the Benchmade Black Class has got a whole
Cool
bunch of
knife.
D2 scattered around it.
Yep.
They throw this in as a budget option between a tactical grip Tillian and a bug out, and this thing would have been like hotcakes. But they shot themselves in the foot by putting 3V that they under heat treated on this one.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to come back to haunt them. Hopefully minimally, or they come back with a new improved 60 to 62.
They came out next year with this exact same knife, but with a different Rockwell.
Like 69, 69, Jesus.
Yeah.
59 to 60 Rockwell would be cool.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Um,
The only other addition that I would like as an improvement, and it would sacrifice the lightweight aspect of this guy, but steel liners or something
Yes.
to help the handle perform to the blade.
properly black class this like it should be black class.
Yes.
And even if it's a skeletonized liner like you've got in here already and just make it full frame with that skeletonized thin liner, it would still do tremendous amounts of reinforcement.
Yeah.
Add a lot to that reliability for minimal cost.
One other thing I was going to dabble on as far as the blade steel itself, kind of funny. Just recently, Cold Steel was asked on one of their Instagram stories what they run their 3V at, and they say they run it at a solid 62.
And that's cold steel,
nice.
and you know what people do with cold steel blades.
Yeah.
And people called them out for like rebuttaling. I was like, no, in their defense, a customer did ask that question to Cold Steel.
Yeah,
It
they
wasn't-
didn't just throw it out.
They weren't capitalizing on another person being down and out. It was thrown out and they answered it and they moved on. But there was a whole bunch of people that noticed.
Yeah,
That's funny.
Yeah, the company that's known for running their steel soft. is running it at 60. 60?
62.
62.
Cold Steel's running at a solid 62.
Good for you.
Their new steels,
Nice.
they're running them at higher Rockwells.
And at
I
a
dig it.
very competitive price for their 3B as
Very
well.
competitive,
And I will
yes.
say for Cold Steel, not to dabble on the review of this knife, but I thought it was funny that this is an instant response and it's out there, guys.
That is hilarious.
So
Slowly becoming a Cold Steel guy.
It happens.
there's a good reason for it.
Cold Steel's slowly making more stuff that we like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're doing good.
Yeah.
Who wants to kick this bitch off?
You want to kick it off.
Oh, I
Kick
do.
the bitch.
And yeah, I'm giving it high marks, you guys. High marks. 69 points. That lands at a C. Objectively speaking, the form and the function of the knife, the way it is, relatively high marks. But where it really failed for me was my enthusiasm, and that all came down to the steel heat treatment. It's just garbage.
Yeah.
If this were in the proper range, it would be a knife where it's like, meh, not for me, but it works, it's good, whatever, send it out. But too damn soft, and I'm not going to harp on it any further than that. It's, you all know what my complaints are.
What was your lowest score?
My lowest score, well, that was my enthusiasm at a 3. Otherwise, it was a 6 for cost versus fit and finish. There's the usual Benchmade problems.
No. The lowest score was 3. What was that?
Oh, no, I just said
Enthusiasm.
enthusiasm,
Okay,
which is explained by, again, the soft heat treat.
Yeah. And then your
And then after
highest
that-
score?
Oh, highest? That was pocket ergonomics, actually. This thing freaking disappeared in the pocket.
Yeah.
It was actually really, super unobtrusive. And I didn't mind that little lanyard tab at all. Like, no, it was a great knife to carry. Stupid lightweight. I mean, yeah.
Yes. That it is.
We've talked about that before with the bug out. Yeah,
I'll go next. I scored it at a 65. It got a C- for me overall. And again, objective category, I gave it 7 and 8s across the board on the objective. I couldn't really bitch too much about anything. Cost versus fit and finish, and again, dabbling on the heat treatment for that, getting a low score for me. It was the personal that really took the hit. Enthusiasm got a 2 on it. I like the idea of a little more tactical, and I got it in hand and then heard about the drama, and that gave it a 2. Material choice, again, not just the heat treatment on 3V, but 3V in particular on this knife in general. I think you could have gone a lot of ways that would have worked out a lot better for it. My high score was pocket ergonomics as well. I also gave it a 9, just like a bug out, just like a Pardue, just like a 940. These things disappear in the pocket and they're a pleasure to carry. I wish they were a pleasure in more ways that we wanted.
Yeah. For once, me and Dennis have actually scored it the same. You came down to my level.
I did.
fantastic.
I gave it a 65 and a C- as well.
C-.
Yep.
I didn't say it. I
No,
don't think
you
it's-
did. You
did. I?
I'm pretty sure you did.
Okay.
Drunk Dennis is also slightly forgetful.
We
Just a
talked
little
about
bit.
it.
But yeah, like with the other two guys, enthusiasm and the cost versus fit and finish took a dive for me because of the heat treatment issues. The high scores, ergonomic execution, because the extended the handle fits really, really nicely in my hands compared to the Pardues and the bug outs.
XLs and double XLs.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then pocket ergos as well was an 8 for me.
Nice.
Yep.
It's a healthy score from this critical son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And I followed suit with Joe over here. I gave it a 69, which is a C. It took a really hard hit for me. I didn't really care about this knife when it first was coming out because I don't usually lean towards Tantos in the first place.
Yeah.
So when it came out, I was kind of low on my opinion of it in the first place, and then I found out all this drama about the steel, and that steel with that handle doesn't make a lot of sense, so it just put me down to a 0 for that. I just...
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing left for this knife.
And they probably could have got me on the hook with a couple of improvements, you know what I mean? Like, legitimately, because I am kind of a fanboy for 3V.
It wouldn't have taken
It's a good
much.
steel.
No, exactly.
And it's... go ahead.
The highest point, I think, for me, actually was its cutting ability. It's a thin blade. It's a nice, basically a full flat grind. It's pretty nice and slicey.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, I think I mentioned this in the past in one of our most recent episodes about how that was the closest that we've all been.
This is the closest.
This is the closest that
4
we've
points.
been in for all our
Yes,
scores.
and two tied and two tied
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well.
The
for
righties and the
scores.
lefties.
That is actually 100%
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
And orientation on hand has nothing to do with it.
Not at all.
It doesn't come up in this conversation at all.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, just disappointing all the way around.
A little bit, yeah.
Execute your steals better, top them up on the 3B, come out with a budget version of a D2, and kick ass, take names.
Yeah.
I think that this knife has a lot of potential.
That it does, yes.
Give me a better handle.
See, that's why my enthusiasm's a 3 and not a 0. It's just, there's hope.
It could be.
But,
yeah.
I mean, if a couple years passes and nothing comes of it, that'll drop down to a 0.
Benchmade, this is really a turning point for them right now, and we're really hoping that they start paying attention to some of their consumers and they take that in hand and come back strong, like we want them to as a premium knife company.
They've stumbled a few times recently.
I don't want them to become a budget company.
No.
And that's the
It seems like there's leanings.
We can feel that slide, and we want it to stop.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with doing both, but you can't.
the Gerbers, the Sogs, the whatever, the slipping of a good company $1 for a while too type of idea. I hate to say that Benchmade is in one of those, but we'd like to say that this is the turning point that's going to convince them to
Catch it.
to come back right now.
Yeah.
Coming back strong for sure.
That would be nice for sure. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's about all that we have to say on this guy. If it wasn't for the heat treatment, and if you can get over this might be a nice little knife for you, but for all of us knife geeks here, we can't get over the heat treatment, so it's not really a nice knife.
Or Rockwell.
Yeah.
If it had a better heat treat, I would probably grind that into a drop point and be happy with it.
Yeah. I've seen some reprofiles on Instagram, and they've done a pretty good job.
But yeah, that being said, closing out here, Nigel the Smith, saying goodbye.
I am who I am. I'm Dennis Vipers.
I am the Iron Joe.
And I'm XL.ca.
We will catch you again next time.
We don't need